Can we talk? I stood in front of James' company in a red dress, blocking his way. The people coming and going cast curious glances. James put his hands in his pockets, frowned slightly, and nodded that I knew he was very impatient. 30 minutes later, at a restaurant. Miss Smith, I think I've made it clear to you many times that there's no possibility between us. I sat across from him, picking at my fingernails with my head down. My heart was sour, and I asked softly, "Are you two together?" He was taken aback for a moment. The impatience between his brows turned into a gentle look, like the moon on a summer night. He smiled softly and said, "Yes, I've known her since I was a kid and have liked her for many years. I've known you for a long time too, and I've liked you for many years. Since the first time I saw you in high school until now. 10 years haven't been enough for you to like me," James said in a gentle tone. "So, Miss Smith, A deep sense of powerlessness welled up in my heart. I interrupted him and said in a sharp tone, "James, we've known each other for 10 years. Can't you even call me by my name?" James said he was sorry that I took a deep breath. "So in these 10 years, you've never liked me, right?" He pursed his lips slightly and said he was sorry again. That I suddenly laughed. Am I being stupid? Amelia, chasing after him for 10 years like this. Does he appreciate my efforts? 10 years have only earned me 2 apologies. 10 years can't compare to his childhood sweetheart. Is it worth it? I've never been in James' eyes. I'm just a joke. That I picked up the wine glass in front of me, filled it to the brim, and downed it in one gulp. "All right, that's it," I said. "Don't worry. I won't pester you anymore." I picked up my small bag, put on my high heels, and walked away without looking back. At that moment, I really thought I was extremely cool, the kind of cool and beautiful, but my heart felt stuffy. When I turned to leave, I seemed to hear him say he was sorry again. Did he say it? Who cares? When I got back, I thought it over carefully. My life isn't just about love. I also have friends, family, and work. So, hello, is Lily there? Let's go clubbing. Oh, bungee jumping is fine too. I'm not crazy. You're the one who needs to take pills. Mom, it's me. Amelia. About the blind date. Ha ha ha. I'm really busy with work at the company. I'll definitely meet him later. Oh, life. It's okay. I'll go to work. I'm happy when I worked. So, my boss rewarded me with a super heartbreak package. I got a project with a high difficulty coefficient. I had to work overtime every day and stay up late facing the computer when I got home at night. I really didn't have that much energy to think about James anymore. But one day, when the moon was shining brightly, I dragged my tired body back home and was startled by my parents. "Mom and Dad. Why are you here? Come, Amelia. Sit down and have some tea." My mom smiled at me and waved. I knew my mom's hot-tempered nature well. When the tigress turns gentle, there must be something fishy. Sure enough, my mom said, "Honey, the young man from Uncle Johnson's family is really nice. He's a good person and has a high education. Right, dear?" My dad nodded and smiled. "I thought we said I was busy with work and would meet him when I had time." My mom's eyebrows knitted into a line. She said, "Can't you even spare the time for a meal? What kind of work are you so busy with that you don't even have time to come home and see us? We came here to see you, and you're not even happy about it." I surrendered to my mom. I looked at my dad with a headache. He waved his hand at me. I made an excuse and slipped into the bathroom, listening to my mom shift her fire to my dad. I never get a break from worrying every day. She didn't take the good opportunity to study abroad in college. And she didn't go to the company we introduced after she started working. She's all grown up, and I still have to worry about the big things in her life. You too, always spoiling her. Why didn't I go study abroad? Why am I still single? Because of James. My eyes suddenly turned red. I felt wronged, but also felt that this grievance was completely unreasonable. If you're willing to gamble, you have to be willing to lose. So I held back my tears. I opened Instagram and posted a story. My parents are forcing me into a blind date. Need advice. Waiting online. It's urgent. There were quick replies. Friend A. We're both in the same boat. I can't help. Friend B. Ha ha ha. Even a beauty like you is being forced into a blind date. Poor girl. Friend C. How about I help you? I raised an eyebrow. This friend C was Ryan, James' good friend and my college alumni. I replied to him, "How can you help?" Not long after, I saw Ryan send me a direct message on Instagram. "Ryan, how about I pretend to be your boyfriend to deal with your parents?" Me. So kind. Ryan. To be honest, Ryan, I'm also being forced into a blind date. Our situations are similar. Me. Okay. Thanks. That it took me less than 10 minutes to get myself a fake boyfriend. I pushed open the bathroom door, touched my nose, and said to my parents with a shy look, "Well, actually, I have a boyfriend." On a weekend, my new fake boyfriend Ryan came to pick me and my parents up for lunch at a restaurant at noon. To show his sincerity, that I looked at Ryan standing in front of the car. His peach blossom eyes were smiling. And there was a smile on his lips too. He was wearing a light-colored shirt and casual clothes, looking gentle, elegant, and full of charm. That I met him in college. Unlike cold James, this guy greeted people with a three-point smile, was smooth and thoughtful in handling things, and was also a master at flirting. He clearly had a lot of romantic affairs, but many girls really liked his style. That I winked at him. I trotted 2 steps towards him in my high heels and put my arm through his. I smiled and said, "Ryan, you're here." He smiled knowingly, nodded at me, and then said to my parents with a smile, "Hello, Uncle and Aunt." It turned out that Ryan was an excellent actor. My mom was smiling from beginning to end and was very satisfied. "How old are you, Ryan?" "I'm 26, Aunt." Ryan poured me some juice. "What are your hobbies usually?" "Just reading books, taking walks, nothing special." Ryan picked up some food for me. "What kind of work do you do?" "I'm in finance. To be honest, I'm usually so busy with work that I don't have much time to spend with Amelia." After saying that, he looked at me with guilt and touched my head. I got goosebumps all over. I got the idea. I'll say the same thing when I meet his parents. My phone buzzed. I opened Instagram. "Lily, what's going on? Are you and Ryan together?" "Lily, I saw you at the restaurant." "Lily, stop chasing James. That's good. That jerk doesn't deserve you." "Lily, come to think of it, you two look quite suitable. You have a couple look. Let me know if it works out." Lily sent me a picture. It was a zoom-in photo taken by the phone camera. The sunlight outside the window was shining brightly. And Ryan and I were looking at each other and smiling. I don't know why, but I saved the picture. A couple look. Well, Ryan and I are kind of the same type. My eyes are long and narrow. My friends say they're beautiful eyes, with the outer corners slightly upturned, also looking a bit like a smile. I have a straight nose and dark lips. At first glance, you can tell I'm a woman with a story. Unfortunately, I haven't dated anyone for 10 years because of just one person. After Ryan sent my parents back to my house, my parents mercilessly refused to let me into the house, telling me to spend time with Ryan to cultivate our relationship. Ryan rarely has free time. Go out and stroll around with Amelia. I know, we should leave some space for you young people. I was chased into the car by my mom. Ryan nodded with a big smile and said, "Sure, Uncle and Aunt. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Amelia." I rubbed my forehead. "Mom, your daughter is so tired." Ryan tapped on the car window and asked with a smile, "Where do you want to go?" "Never mind. I can just wander around by myself." I felt a bit awkward at the moment. He ignored me and said to the driver, "Let's go to the beach and catch some breeze." Humph. He's quite pushy. Anyway, I'm free, and I haven't been to the beach for a long time. The car first drove to the mall. I was a bit puzzled. He told me he needed to buy something. I forced a smile at him and waved my hand. But actually, I was annoyed. I hate waiting for people when I was alone. My mind would still wander to James when it was free. Sometimes I even dreamed about him in my sleep. How could I forget someone I had liked for so long and invested so much time in so easily? I was like a helium balloon, originally light and carefree, cool and at ease. But then a hole appeared in it, and the helium slowly ran out. I was gradually falling, but there was nothing I could do. In the end, I landed on the ground, and no one had the time to care about this discarded toy of mine. In matters of the heart, the one who desires first loses first. I got a few apologies in exchange for 10 years. Actually, James wasn't much better off. He had his unforgotten love on his mind all the time. But when they met again, the girl didn't remember anything. The memories he cherished so much meant nothing to his white moonlight and could be forgotten. Isn't that sad? It's just that they ended up together. And I didn't, essentially. We're both losers. That I was listless all the way and didn't talk much. Ryan glanced at me a few times, sensing that I was in a bad mood. He thoughtfully didn't say anything. When we arrived at the beach, I finally knew what Ryan had bought. A dozen beers and a pair of flat-soled shoes. He smiled and said, "There are a lot of rocks here. High heels can easily cause you to sprain your ankle." He really knew how to charm girls. I had to admit that I was charmed when I put on the flat-soled shoes. I found they fit me perfectly. I smiled meaningfully and said, "You have a lot of experience, don't you? So considerate." Ryan said, "It's my honor to serve a beauty." He made a very gentlemanly gesture of invitation. I took the beer from his hand and stepped onto the rocky beach first. The afternoon breeze kept teasing the sea surface, crashing against the shore. At this moment, the sea was like a girl's dancing dress, because it was dancing lightly in the afternoon. The blue dress sparkled with floating light, gently rippling with the girl's dance steps, gently rubbing against the air. It was intoxicating. The pent-up frustration in my heart was insignificant and tiny in the face of the sea. The sea looked at me compassionately as I came and went, restless and anxious. And it also tolerated my pain, unwillingness, heartache, and helplessness. So what? Why should I care? It's all in the past. That I turned around, looked at Ryan walking towards me, and smiled. Ryan was very talkative. We talked about music, movies, college, work, family, our embarrassing travels, delicious food we accidentally discovered, and annoying clients that we sat on the rocks. The beer in our hands had been finished long ago. He pointed at the sun and turned to me, saying, "Look, the sunset has caught up with us." I was dazzled by his smile and looked up at the setting sun. So, we had been chatting for so long. "Ryan." I tilted my head and smiled. "Thank you. I'm really happy. I haven't been this happy for a long time." Ryan also tilted his head, blinked his eyes, and said with a smile, "I'm happy too if I can make you happy." I snorted softly, smiled, and said, "Stop being so cheesy," then turned my head to look at the sunset. After that day, I no longer deliberately filled my life with work. Instead, I fell in love with going to the beach. After work, on weekends, whenever I had time, I would go there alone. Sometimes when I thought of James, the first wasn't as sad as before. And when I thought of Ryan, I would giggle for a while. After that day, Ryan and I no longer had any intersection in our lives. I didn't want to take the initiative to contact anyone. I subconsciously felt that taking the initiative often led to rejection and disappointment. Lily knew the whole story between Ryan and me and that I had stopped chasing James. She had imagined a plot like in a tragic romance novel, where the female supporting character loved the male lead but was rejected, and then became disheartened, desperate, lonely, and helpless. So she always paid attention to my condition. I was invited by Lily to a bar on Friday night to drink. The alcohol coursed through my body, and I sang and danced in the neon lights. Lily asked, "How are you? Do you feel a bit happier?" That was a touching question. That it's always those close to you who can see the loss and fatigue behind your mask and are willing to be with you at any time to ease the pent-up frustration in your heart. I had shown that I didn't care at all in front of everyone, thinking that being sad about unrequited love was sentimental and beneath me. But Lily asked me if I felt happier. That I kissed her on the cheek, and Lily pushed me away in disgust. Lily didn't hold her liquor well and soon passed out. I propped my head up and sat next to her, snorting, pathetic. Then I called her boyfriend to come and pick her up, who would pick me up. I propped my head up and flipped through my phone. My cheap boyfriend. I have a boyfriend. Since when? Looking at the note on my phone, I smiled mischievously and called. I first called out, "Boyfriend," then reported the name and address of the bar, kissed the phone, and hung up. The other person didn't even have a chance to speak. My cheap boyfriend arrived earlier than Lily's boyfriend. When I saw it was Ryan, it dawned on me. My boyfriend is quite handsome. I shouted stupidly at him. Boyfriend, your girlfriend is here. Ryan walked over and put his coat on me first. I shouted, "It's hot," and then yanked the coat off. Ryan put it back on me and snorted, "Stop acting drunk. Behave yourself." "I'm not drunk," I replied. That he said, "Let's go. I'll take you home." Me. "Lily's boyfriend hasn't come yet. I have to watch over her." He said, "You're so kind-hearted." Me. "Of course. Who am I? I'm the beautiful and kind-hearted Amelia." He smiled softly. His peach blossom eyes squinted. His expression was both helpless and gentle. It seemed as if there was a warm glow all around him, like the peach blossoms in full bloom in March. With the gentleness of a breeze blowing by. I must be drunk, I thought when Lily's boyfriend arrived. His eyes darted between us. He smiled and said, "Amelia, you have good taste. Where's Lily?" I nodded and pointed to the passed-out Lily. Her boyfriend rubbed his forehead in frustration, went over, and helped the drunk Lily up. But then his face changed, and he asked me in a suppressed anger, "Amelia, which bastard kissed her?" I looked at the lipstick mark on Lily's face, thought carefully, and then raised my hand and said it was me. The guy didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lying in bed, thinking about my crazy self last night. I had a bit of a headache. I was so embarrassing. I'll never drink again. That I was a bit thirsty and went to the living room to get some water. I happened to meet Ryan's half-smiling eyes. He said, "You're awake." Then he handed me a glass of water. Me. "Why are you here, Ryan? Didn't you ask me to come and pick you up and take you home?" Me. Thanks." Ryan took the initiative to explain. "I was afraid you'd act drunk, so I thought it was better to stay and keep an eye on you, so I didn't leave." Me. "So, I didn't do anything. Too out of line, right?" I was confident enough to ask politely, as I didn't black out when I drank. Ryan. "Yes, you did." I spat out a mouthful of water and asked, "What?" He rubbed his chin, pretending to think carefully, and said, "You hugged me and called me boyfriend. And you kissed me too." Oh my God. What have I done? I choked on my own saliva and coughed like crazy. He patted me on the back and said, "Just kidding. You were very good. You didn't cry, make a fuss, or throw up. You just lay down on the bed and fell asleep." I gave him a glare. "Who jokes like that?" He smiled and said, "Hey, even when the beauty is angry, she's still so pretty." He had called me beauty since the first time I met Ryan in college. On one hand, I thought this guy was a bit flirtatious, but on the other hand, I quite liked this fitting nickname, so I just let him call me that. Later, this nickname became like an alias among friends, and I didn't really care much about it. But now, it was the first time I blushed a little because of this nickname. After ending this awkward conversation, I finally sent off this distinguished guest, Ryan. I lay on the sofa and let out a sigh of relief. It seemed like I had forgotten something. I opened the contacts on my phone and quickly and obediently changed the note, "Cheap boyfriend," back to Ryan. The project I took on before had kept me busy for 3 months, and it was finally coming to an end, with delicate makeup, a body-hugging skirt, and high heels. The sophisticated OL style in the workplace was really suitable for me. Without James, my career was going smoothly. I led the client to a restaurant and happened to meet Ryan walking out of the restaurant with his client. What a coincidence that we glanced at each other. And then we chatted and laughed with our clients as if we were strangers. "Miss Smith, regarding the cooperation with your company, there are actually quite a lot of obstacles. I can't guarantee." That old fox, even at this stage of the negotiation. He still wanted more benefits. I hid my annoyance, poured a glass of wine, and smiled, saying, "Mr. Brown, don't worry, I'm willing to give you a 3 percentage point discount as a token of my gratitude to you." Then I downed the wine in one gulp. Mr. Brown across from me laughed heartily and said, "Then I also want to assure Miss Smith that I will do my best for this project." I managed to close the deal, but then I got scolded by my boss. 3 percentage points. "Amelia, are you running a charity?" Me. "Without those 3 percentage points, would Mr. Brown let this project proceed smoothly? You've dealt with him before. Don't you know what kind of person he is? 3 percentage points is a lot." But it's better than having the project fall through. At least we closed the deal. And there's still some profit. If you didn't want to give those 3 percentage points, why did you assign this project to me in the first place? My boss. Boss. You've got some nerve. Amelia. Arguing with your boss. Me. I'm sorry, boss. I'll treat you to dinner. Boss. A real man knows when to bend and when to stand at my boss was so annoyed that he laughed and said, all right, tone down your straightforward temper. I don't need you to treat me to dinner. Just bring me a bottle of wine. Me. Don't worry, boss. You're so wise. Boss. Don't forget my commission. Boss. My boss sneered twice and hung up the phone decisively. All bosses in the world are like Scrooge. Poor me. My surplus value has been squeezed dry, just as I hung up the phone. Another call came in. I wasn't in a very good mood when I saw it was Ryan. I reined in my temper, still sounding grumpy, and asked, what do you want? There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. And then he asked, you're not in a good mood. I shouldn't have taken my anger out on others. I let out a soft sigh and my tone became much gentler. No, it's just work stuff. What's up? I need you to do me a favor. Come to my place for dinner. My parents are here. And they want to meet you, my so-called girlfriend. And it can also help me get them off my back about blind dates. So it was finally time for me, the fake girlfriend, to step in. Okay. It's really easy to figure out how a well-behaved and sensible girlfriend can win over her boyfriend's parents. With a good education, a stable job, good looks, and no bad habits. A girl like me is quite popular in the blind dating world. In the middle of dinner, Ryan received a phone call. It must have been about work, and he slipped away, that jerk. So unkind that I was lucky enough to be allowed by his parents to take a look at his room. Ryan's room was clean and bright. The sunlight easily streamed in through the window. Next to the desk was a small bookshelf. I imagined what Ryan was usually like in his room. He probably pulled out the chair, sat down, leaned back slightly, casually picked up a book from the bookshelf, and then opened it, and I saw a photo of myself. In the photo, I was sleeping on the desk, with a pile of documents and a teddy bear-shaped cup beside me. That was what I looked like in college. I didn't have curly hair then. I had a high ponytail, no makeup, and fair skin. I was studying my major courses in the library with a lot of effort. What wonderful youthful days those were. When did Ryan take this photo? What did he mean by this? I suddenly felt that the photo in my hand was burning hot. I put the photo into the book and put it back in its original place, before Ryan came back. I left in a hurry after saying goodbye. Time kept moving on. And we made our entrances on this small and shabby stage, meeting again in unexpected and coincidental ways. I was sitting in my boss's office, pinching the bridge of my nose with a headache, and asking, why didn't I know the company was hiring new people? What's the deal with that girl? My boss was sitting across from me, leisurely taking a sip of tea, looking at the bottle of wine in front of him. He smiled and said, this is good wine. Then he put the wine away. The key is, why was she assigned to my team? A person like that is no use here, just taking up space. Transfer her to another department. I don't want her. My boss was calm. He pointed his index finger upwards and said, it's the decision from above. Just keep her. And that girl isn't that bad. She had a pretty good performance record in her previous company. Amelia, don't be so prejudiced. Get to know her better. I looked unhappy and leaned back in the chair. I was about to argue further, but my boss interrupted me and said, this is a minor issue. I called you here to talk about something else. He pushed a document towards me and said, Amelia, here's an opportunity. You need to seize it. Think about it when you get back and give me your answer within a week. I flipped through the document. My frown gradually eased, and I picked it up without saying a word. The company was expanding into overseas markets, and the overseas branch needed someone from the headquarters. This was a really good opportunity. I went back to my office, lay back in my chair, and stared blankly at the document in front of me. Amelia, studying abroad is a great opportunity. One have high hopes for you and recommend you to go. Amelia, what are you hesitating about? Other students would be very happy to have this chance. If you have any difficulties, you can tell me, your teacher. Amelia, when an opportunity comes, you need to seize it. I gently rubbed the document. And memories of my college days kept flashing through my mind. It was the same situation with materials for going abroad. And the same words of advice, back then. I didn't go because of James. The first was afraid that if I left, I would lose the chance to be by his side. Looking back now, I was really stupid. I didn't leave, but the person by his side still wasn't me. I was so stupid. Trading my future for a nebulous relationship that I won't do that again. My future is much more important than a relationship that I called the new girl in. The girl was pretty and slender. She looked very nervous when she saw me and didn't dare to speak. Like a domesticated little rabbit. I smiled and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm not going to eat you. Now that you're here, just do your work steadily. Go find Mr. White. He'll assign tasks to you." I watched her leave and smiled. The world is really small. The new employee the company parachuted in was James' unforgotten love. His current girlfriend, Lisa. This wasn't the first time I had met her. When I was still chasing James. The first noticed that James took special care of this girl who suddenly appeared. So I arrogantly invited her out and told her not to play any tricks. That James was mine. After I tried to stop them several times, their relationship actually got even better. What an embarrassing past. It doesn't matter. Work is the most important thing. I put away the document and came back to my senses. As it turned out, the newly transferred employee was just there for show. Looking at the young girl in front of me, I was really angry. Mr. White had assigned her such simple tasks, but she still made mistakes. If I hadn't been worried and checked on her work, I would probably be the one getting scolded now. Moreover, the girl had a thin skin. She started crying before I could even scold her properly. She was crying and apologizing at the same time. And Mr. White felt sorry for her and was speaking up for her. I lost the mood to scold her and let her go with a dark face. I turned to Mr. White and said, "Since you feel sorry for her, you can take care of her from now on. If she makes any more mistakes, I'll hold you accountable." After work in the evening, Ryan invited me to dinner. I went to the restaurant as promised. I felt much better when I saw him, and he ordered a lot of my favorite dishes. My phone rang inopportune. I frowned when I saw the caller ID, feeling puzzled. Ryan was also curious and asked what was wrong. I didn't have any defenses, so I showed him the caller ID, shrugged, and answered the phone in front of him. "What do you want?" "I heard from Lisa about what happened today. I hope you won't make things difficult for her because of what's between us." "Lisa. Oh, Lisa." Just the mention of that pretty but useless girl made the anger I had just suppressed flare up again. "James, what right do you have to say this to me? What's between us? What exactly is there between us?" There was silence on the other end of the phone. I curled my lips and said sarcastically, as Miss Lisa's supervisor, "I don't think it's making things difficult for her to punish her when she makes mistakes. You can ask Miss Lisa what exactly she did wrong that makes me seriously doubt her professional ability. Also, if Miss Lisa has any dissatisfaction, she can just come and talk to me directly. Why are you calling me, James? Who do you think you are?" I hung up the phone and immediately turned off my phone. Seeing Ryan's half-smiling expression, I felt a bit embarrassed. I said, "Sorry about that," and lowered my head to bite into the meat. Ryan said, "It's okay. You're cute." I was used to his compliments. I looked up and blurted out, "Do you want to hear about it?" "Hear about what?" "The phone call from James just now." "If you're willing to talk about it, I'm willing to listen." I finally found an outlet to vent my grievances. I started from the time the newly transferred employee joined and talked all the way to James' phone call today. And I also made some very subjective comments from time to time. The central argument was, Lisa was a complete airhead, and James was completely blind. Ryan listened and smiled. And he kept picking up food for me. I was very satisfied with his reaction. It was obvious that he was on my side. After I finished speaking, I belatedly asked him, "Do you think I'm being a bit sentimental?" Ryan raised his eyebrows and said, "How could I think that? I don't think you're in the wrong in this matter. Besides, the fact that you were willing to answer the phone in front of me and tell me all this means that you truly consider me as a good friend. I'm really happy about that. When I'm with Ryan, I always feel a sense of tenderness everywhere. The hustle and bustle of the traffic, the scattered lights and shadows, they're all joys in this mortal world. Ryan, do you still play basketball? When I'm free, I'll go to the stadium and play for a while. Why do you ask? I remember you were really handsome when you played basketball in college. I wonder if I'll have the chance to see it again. After getting a positive reply, I continued to push my luck and said, "Hey, why don't you teach me how to play basketball, by the way? I rarely feel so stupid that it's just that." I went downstairs to get a package and locked myself out of my apartment. Amelia, why don't you just stupid yourself to death? I banged my head hard, standing alone at the door with the package in my hand, wearing my pajamas and slippers. I couldn't get into my home. In this cruel modern society, without a phone, a wallet, or keys, what was I supposed to do? There was a spare key in the company, but it was so far away, so that was out of the question. Borrow a phone to make a call. I only remembered my parents' phone number, and they were in another state. Well, there was still one friend who lived not too far from my place. It would take about 30 minutes to walk there. I pressed the doorbell of Ryan's apartment, but there was no answer. I knocked on the door politely, but still no one. I lost my patience and banged on the door, but there was still no response. I pressed the doorbell like crazy, but still no one. At this time, Ryan should be off work, right? Is he working overtime? On a business trip? Out having fun? Ryan, please come back and save me. I decided to wait for him here. If it really didn't work out, I'd think of something else. Fortunately, I didn't have to wait too long before he came back. That he was quite surprised to see me huddled at his door. I told him the whole story with a thick face and entered his apartment. Did you go drinking with friends? I smelled the alcohol on him and asked curiously. Ryan raised his eyebrows and said, "No, it was a business dinner. I didn't even eat much." He didn't eat. What a coincidence. I didn't eat either. I was happy in my heart and quickly tried to be nice, saying, "Let me cook something for you. Consider it as the fee for staying the night." He sat on the sofa, looked me up and down carefully, and drawled, "You haven't eaten either, have you?" I smiled at him. After getting his approval, I ran to the kitchen. That I'm not bad at cooking. I can handle home-cooked meals with ease. While cooking, I heard Ryan say, "How are you going to go to work tomorrow dressed like this? How about I lend you some clothes that I haven't worn yet?" It was like someone handed me a pillow just when I was feeling sleepy. I turned my head and said okay. Then I saw Ryan leaning against the kitchen door, his peach blossom eyes curved, with a hint of teasing. "I have a spare key at the company. Thank you for letting me stay. I'll pick you up for work and bring you back tomorrow." "Okay. Thank you." That thank you doesn't sound very sincere. Can you be more practical? "Let me treat you to dinner." That's perfunctory. "Do you really want me to repay you by marrying you?" "I don't mind, but you'll be the one at a disadvantage." I turned around with a spatula in my hand and looked at him with a smile. Ryan coughed and left. That I snorted softly, continued to stir the food, and felt a bit proud, trying to compete with me. Ryan would take me to play basketball every Saturday and Sunday, but the specific time wasn't fixed. Sometimes he would also invite me to have a meal. More and more of my spare time was filled by him, and I would pour out more and more of my troubles in life and at work to him. There was an air of ambiguity ever since I saw the photo of myself in his room. I knew how he felt about me. Coupled with all the frequent invitations after that, I became even more certain that Ryan liked me. On Saturday afternoon, after Ryan and I finished playing basketball, I heard him say, "Come to my place for dinner. I'll cook it myself." I smiled and said okay. According to the previous pattern, it was probably that I would go to his place for dinner, and then he would send me home. But this time, I didn't leave. I took the initiative to get closer. Hearing his breathing quicken, I said flirtatiously, "I'm not leaving." "Okay." Then I gently kissed his lips. "Amelia." He called my name. "Ryan, I'm going abroad. Maybe it'll be hard to see you again." Ryan pulled away from me, gradually calmed his breathing, and asked me, "How long will you be gone?" "About 3 years. I think." He let out a soft sigh and got up from the sofa. I lay on the sofa, closed my eyes, feeling a bit at a loss. Do I like Ryan? Yes, I do. But this liking isn't enough for me to give up the opportunity to go abroad. I no longer have the courage I had when I was young to be unwavering for the so-called love. In fact, from the moment I decided to go abroad, I should have cut off contact with Ryan. I was greedy for the warmth I felt with him, but I didn't want to give up my so-called future. I was torn and indecisive, and I was getting deeper and deeper into this dilemma. Now, time no longer allows me to procrastinate. It's pulling me by the collar out of the quagmire and throwing me onto the path of my future, forcing me to make a decision. I'm leaving. All the things that happened before seem like a big dream, vanishing into thin air in an instant. Why are you crying? Ryan gently wiped the tears from the corner of my eye with his hand. I opened my eyes and met his gentle gaze. His peach blossom eyes were as rippling as water, calm and tender. He was holding a box in his hand and slowly opened it. Inside was a necklace. He smiled and said, I originally wanted to give this to you on your birthday, but it seems I don't have time now. I looked at the necklace lying on the black velvet. The proud swan was slightly bowing its head, revealing a trace of tender and affectionate color under the warm light. Do you like it? If you accept my gift, you have to be my girlfriend. He leaned in slightly and left a kiss on the center of my forehead. I'm going abroad. I'll wait for you. He put the necklace around my neck. Liar. After 3 years, the person by his side won't be me anymore. 3 years is a long time. And there will be too many changes. I don't dare to bet on the future anymore. Ryan, when did you start liking me? I liked you from the first time I saw you. It's really different to hear it from him directly. My heart stirred slightly, and I looked up and kissed him. I actually didn't spend the night at his place. There's something wrong with Ryan. On the day I went to the airport, Ryan came to see me off. I stood on tiptoe and gently left a kiss on his lips. I raised my eyebrows, smiled, and said, I'm leaving. Then I picked up my suitcase and walked away with big steps. Everything that was chaotic has finally settled. I just still don't believe that he will wait for me. It doesn't matter. 3 years. Maybe by then I won't care anymore. I gently twirled the necklace around my neck. It happened to be Christmas that day. I walked through the busy traffic, stepping on the thick snow, and there was a squeaking sound under my feet. I wanted to go back and take a nap, but then I saw him standing in front of my house, under the dim streetlight. The snowflakes were swirling and falling. He smiled and walked towards me, saying, 3 years is too long. I'm here to be with you. Seeing an old acquaintance coming through the snow and chatting by the midnight lights, it felt like another world. Yet also like it was just yesterday. The first time I saw her was on the playground. She was holding a bottle of water and standing next to her friends, watching people play basketball. She was very beautiful, bright, and I really wanted to protect her. This girl ran over and handed the water to one of the boys, named James, a member of the student union. I knew James quite well. He had a good character, a cold but not unsociable personality. I heard he could even play the piano, and he was very popular with girls. She has a boyfriend. I thought, for some reason, I was a bit disappointed, but later I discovered the truth. This girl was actually chasing after him. Her perseverance was really touching. However, James wasn't a heart of stone. He was more like reinforced stainless steel. The second time I saw her was at a student union gathering. This girl joined the student union because of James and went to the gathering too. I smiled and called her Beauty, and she wasn't shy at all. She readily accepted the nickname. She had a thick skin, but she was also quite cute. James was cold and reserved, while Amelia was humorous and witty. I looked at James and then at Amelia, and I thought they would be a really good match if they got together. The third time I saw her was in the library. There were a lot of books around this girl. She was lying there sleeping. I found a good angle to take a photo. And then I left right away. It wasn't that I felt guilty or anything, that I couldn't help but pay attention to her and wanted to get closer to her. But she was completely focused on James and didn't notice me at all. James had never given her any hope and had a very clear attitude of rejection. I felt a bit relieved and also heartbroken for her. I saw her sitting on a stone bench on campus many times, with a slight frown, looking into the distance. She must have been feeling sad. Some people's emotions are always hidden. Interestingly, someone on campus secretly took a photo of her sitting on the bench. And she became the campus belle all of a sudden, when I later found out that she gave up the opportunity to study abroad because of James. The first was inexplicably angry. What was going on in this girl's head? So stupid. In college, I thought I would wait until this girl stopped chasing James and really got to know me. She left a faint mark in my college days. I didn't usually pay attention to it, but it was always there, showing a bit of its presence when the light was just right. I didn't care. There were too many passers-by in life, and I was just one of the people in a hurry. I met this interesting but not so important girl when I was young, and our paths wouldn't overlap in the future. Time passed quickly. I was busy with my postgraduate studies, graduating, and dealing with life. I hadn't seen her for a long time. That I had always been alone. There was no one waiting for me at home, asking me if I was back. That I thought of the girl hidden in my heart, with a smile as beautiful as a flower. That I really wanted to see her. Coincidentally, one night I saw her message, forced into a blind date. I wanted to help her and also help myself at the same time, so I sent her a message, offering to pretend to be her boyfriend. Things went surprisingly smoothly. When I took her to the beach, I saw her sitting on the rocks, with a slight frown, looking at the sea. She had that same expression again, but she quickly adjusted her mood and chatted and laughed as if nothing was wrong. That I still felt heartbroken for her. A girl like her should have been bright and flamboyant, as warm and dazzling as the sun in the sky. Why did she always show that kind of expression? I really wanted to hold her in my arms and protect her, to make her smile like before. Chasing a girl needs to be done step by step. My path of pursuing her is still a long one. That I saw her when I took a client to dinner. She had a delicate makeup and chatted with the client calmly, like a small knife inlaid with precious stones, showing her sharpness. That I told my parents that I had a girl I liked and wanted them to meet her. But I was called back to the company before I finished the meal. Later, when I invited her to dinner and saw that she wasn't afraid to answer the phone in front of me, sharply sarcastic to the person on the other end of the phone, and willing to complain about James to me, I was sure that she really didn't care about James anymore and that she was willing to consider me as one of her own. My heart was like a river in spring when the ice melted, and the water flowed gurgling during the company team building event. I didn't drink much. In the end, everyone else was drunk and lying on the table, and I was the only one who was still relatively sober. I settled the drunkards one by one, and I felt annoyed for no reason. I don't really like a dinner where a group of people sit around together. When I got home, I saw Amelia in her pajamas, squatting in front of my house. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, and she smiled and said, "You're back." My heart skipped a beat, and that inexplicable throbbing wiped away the annoyance in my heart. The reason why she came to my house made me feel a bit amused. A smart girl like her being a bit confused once in a while is really endearing. I stood at the kitchen door and watched her cooking. I really wanted to marry her. When I went to the jewelry store to pick a necklace, I immediately fell in love with that swan necklace. It was proud and bright, very suitable for her. Not everything goes smoothly. Amelia told me she was going abroad just before she left. I understand that this is very important to her. I don't want to be like James, who always held her back. I don't want to be her burden. That I've already waited for her for 8 years. It doesn't matter if I wait for another 3 years. When I saw her off at the airport, she seemed normal, but I always felt that she had given up on something. Looking at her back, I always felt that she might never come back. The uneasiness and loss in my heart grew day by day. 3 years. I booked a plane ticket and went to find her. I'll be with her for these 3 years. That I've already waited for her for 8 years. And I don't want to wait for another 3 years. 3 years is too long. I'm here to be with you.